Good luck.
IAAF President Lord Sebastian Coe is the man in charge. The countdown is on.
On your marks.
The double Olympic champion sets 146 men on their way. It's the last title to be awarded on a course they will continue to talk about for decades to come. Jeffrey Kipsang Camberwell, aiming to become a 3-time world cross-country champion. Only Ngugi, Turgat and Bekele have won 3 in a row, back-to-back.
Really hard to pick a favourite for the challenges to Camberwell. Barega, of course, well, the world's fastest 5,000-metre runner last year, 4th quickest in history. He's only 19, Rob. He could have raced in the under-20 men's race today. He chose to opt for this one. But again, relevance of track speed and trackability is blurred when it comes to a race of this calibre over this nature of course. 5 laps, remember, just the same as the women for these men. And first to the top of the hill right at the start will certainly not be the first to the top of that hill on the last lap.
Yes, that's Mikael Dahl Jensen, European Junior Cross Country champion. A few years ago, 27-year-old from Denmark, enjoying his moment to shine out front, and he's really going for this. Wow. He's decided to take it on and leave the other 145 men trailing in his wake. And interesting, Tim, this will make you chuckle. I just watched as they went up that first 400-metre incline to the turn point into the fan zone. Matt Baxter is there or thereabouts. He's in equal second place. Baxter, Tim, caused a little bit of a flutter for the World Cross Country Championships on Twitter, because he put out a series of messages, one of which said, describing this course, the uphills will hurt you, the downhills will break you. Good luck finding anywhere to catch your breath. And it went viral.
Well, so it should have done. It was a wonderfully phrased few words, and absolutely matched, I think, the impression that all of us got from walking around this course over the last couple of days, Rob. There is no respite. There's nowhere to get a break and ease off. And I don't think there will be here today, as we see Dahl Jensen gradually being swallowed up by the pack, having had his... Was it Hockney? Somebody said about 15 seconds of glory?
Yeah, something like that.
A little bit more than 15 seconds, but relatively speaking, not much more. This will be quick. I think you're right. I think there are such high caliber competitors in this one. There'll always be somebody wanting to test the others and surging. And I like that. I like distance racing, to be honest, and hard and fast from the gun if possible, and to be less emphasis on tactics. And, you know, that's why I admire Helena Beery's efforts and win in the previous race, because she didn't hang about. She could have, with the fastest finishing kick surely of all of them, she could have played that race so many different ways. She could have sat back and waited, but she didn't. She kept grinding it out and dropping the size of that elite pack at the front.
It was a run of real bravery, and I think, you know, she alluded to it in her interview with Rachel Stringer. I think she would probably look back on that as one of her greatest triumphs. I reckon that World Cross Country victory on this course, in this condition, I would probably say that would rank alongside her world title over 5,000 metres 2 years ago in London. Maxwell Rotich has taken his turn to lead now. Last year, he produced an all-comers record in South America over 10K, 27:22 in Brazil last May. He leads as one of the Japanese athletes in second, and the fast-starting Dane, Mikael Dahl Jensen, has indeed just retracted into the middle of that leading group.
Well, that's a big lead group, isn't it? What about... Well, there isn't really a group separated yet, but it's being stretched out pretty quickly, and within just a few minutes, I think we will have a more clearly defined group, Rob, as people realise that the fatigue they're feeling after one lap with 4 to come is something they've just got to get their heads around. Anybody can run this lap really hard for one lap and be somewhere near the front. It's a case of how well you can last the following laps.
Well, I hope our cameraman's got his hanky ready, because... he's going to have to clean that lens. It is an absolute quagmire now, this 20 metres of mud.
It's getting wetter, isn't it? They're adding water to it as the day wears on, I'm sure.
Worse than Stavanger in '89, or about the same?
Not a well, I would say this, but in Stavanger we had a section like that, much deeper mud for about 600 metres. It was a totally different race, This is beautiful running in the good old days. This 97% of this race is a very good surface. It just happens to be at about 10 degrees climb or 10 degrees drop. No, that mud is a token gesture compared with a lot of cross-country races around all of Europe. You know, people are used to mud and hills and cross-country, but in this one, it just comes and bangs you again and again. It's a very tough course.
I'm really interested to see Joel Ayeko, who was leading round that turn. He is a two-time world mountain running silver medalist. He got the gold as a junior back in 16 and had silver medals over the last 2 years. I'm talking about the Ugandan who's now leading. You can tell he's strong, can't you, by the way he's eating up that ground, Tim. And all of a sudden, a massive group is now, it's not quite single file, but they're definitely spreading out.
No, absolutely right. And one of the Spaniards up there in second place having a really good run. I don't think that is Lambda Sem. Who's perhaps the best known of the Spanish squad, twice second at the European Cross-Country Championships.
A little tap in the back from the Spaniard. It might actually be Umes Eruch, who actually turns 20 today. What a way to mark your 20th birthday, competing in the senior men's world cross-country race. One down, 4 to come. And Jacob Kiplimo, Tim, has moved up on the outside, unbeaten, as you indicated, since last July. And here's what kind of made my ears prick up when I was doing some research last week. Kiplimo won the Ugandan trials ahead of Cheptegei by 11 seconds. He then won the very hotly contested Seville cross-country permit meeting, once again beating Cheptegei by 16 seconds. He is in sensational shape, the 18-year-old.
And Kiplimo, don't let's forget, is you know, an athlete who's taken junior titles as well. He would be the youngest ever champion if he could win. Kiplimo, Jacob Kiplimo, is a champion in 2015 and 2017 in the under-20 races. So rather like Guide in the senior women's race, he comes here with junior titles in the bag already. 6 minutes 29 for that first lap, and a big pack. Dozens of athletes within 3 or 4 seconds. So there's a lot of determined running out there, which suggests to me, Rob, there's quite a few athletes out there who are overextending themselves in the early stages, refusing to give in and run cautiously for the first lap. And that might mean that in the latter stages, we're going to see a lot of guys in trouble.
Well, you look at how well Muller came through the senior women's field. You know, she was around about 20th or so and ended up with a top 15 finish, which was absolutely superb. I'm watching out, Tim. I mean, they're so well bunched. I'm almost certain that eKabRWorld is there. He was right in the lead group when they went through the first lap, not making his presence felt at the front, but we will just double check we can still see him. He has a kind of a rolling barrel motion about him. And you know, one of my favourite performances from him, which I think was one of the he is in that group, you can just see him now, he's in about 6th or 7th place, just on the left-hand side. One of the finest performances he's ever produced, I think, was when he recovered from falling on the start line of the World Half in Cardiff in 2016. Caught them up again in about 400 metres. The conditions, it's a lovely course in Cardiff, the conditions were awful. He took on a brutal climb towards the end, and he wasn't a million miles away from Tedesse's then world record of 58.23. He was well inside 59-minute pace in conditions that you would have struggled to see anybody breaking 60 minutes, and he still ran low 59, something like 59.13. He's an amazing runner.
And they said he trains, of course, with Eliud Kipchoge, the world record holder for the marathon, and Kipchoge himself is down on record as saying that he thinks eKabRWorld is the man who is capable of overtaking him and taking on his crown, so to speak. I think in that Cardiff World Half Marathon Championships, he fell at the start, as you say, and covered his first mile. They worked out in about 4:12 on the roads at the start of a half marathon to get back in touch with the leaders very, very quickly. I mean, he is an exceptional physical specimen is eKabRWorld. But we'll find out how well he copes here today and what sort of shape he's in. He's in what, in 5th, 6th place there in that red vest of Ken. It doesn't really narrow it down very much, I know, but it'll become more apparent soon, because that pack of what, about 20, 25 is beginning to separate itself now.
He's perfectly positioned, eKabRWorld, the defending champion. Looks very, very comfortable. Just covering the move, and we are beginning to have a few drop off the back of this huge lead group. We're probably edging towards having a group of about sort of 20 or so. A couple of the Australians going through. Such a shame for McSween, as we've mentioned already, that he's not able to take his place in the starting lineup. But watch out for Jack Rayner. He won the Cardiff half last year, not the one with eKabRWorld, just last autumn. He's a 61.01. That was a massive PB for Rayner. I like watching Rayner. He's a bit like a 1920s matinee idol. He's got this huge moustache, always entertaining to watch. So the two Australians, just on the very right of your picture now, coming in to the frame, trying to get back on song with the leading 20 or so.
Yeah, I know Stewie McSwain will be watching this one from his sickbed, sick with frustration at being hit by a viral infection this week. Spent much of the week in bed, coached by Nick Bideau, who looks after quite a few athletes in the Australian team. And but for that, I think the Australian squad certainly would have placed in the top 4 or 5 teams, might even have challenged for a medal. What I'm interested, just going back to the way this race is unfolding so far, Rob, with what, 11.5 minutes on the clock, is how aggressively the Ugandans are running now. They're running with real confidence and aggression, which suggests to me they feel, they believe they can again beat eKabRWorld here, and they're either rightly confident or else digging themselves into a hole here, because the pace is unrelenting up at the front. It's very, very fierce.
I'm interested as well, Tim, the pale blue vest of Aaron Kifley. 3rd in the world half last year, behind eKabRWorld. I know you commentated on that. They're absolutely motoring here. Kifley in 2nd place, bronze in the world half last year, 5th in the world cross 2 years ago. The Eritrean has got a definite chance here. We didn't speak about him in the lead up to the race, but he's got all the credentials. He's got the stamina of the half marathon, the history with the cross. He wasn't far off the podium in Kampala 2 years ago. The Eritrean might get in the shake-up here.
Well, I'm just flabbergasted. I'm almost speechless at the speed they generated. They're going up that slope, Rob. I don't think I could run down it that fast. It's like they had a following wind. So Kiplimo there in the yellow, looking very, very relaxed indeed, isn't he? The Ugandan. Wow. Jacob Kiplimo, world junior cross-country champion 2 years ago. And he ran the Rio 5,000 metres, the Olympic Games, 3 years ago when he was 15 years old. That's an indication, some measure of his ability, the Ugandan champion who's at the front.
6:29 for the first lap, Timbo. 6:18 for that one. They are slowly and surely just winding this up, and that is why we have had so many great athletes blown out the back.
That's thinning out really quickly, isn't it? 12:47 after 2 laps. Well, there's 12 athletes there within almost touching distance of Kiplimo at the front. But you just get the impression that because it's so quick, it's going to thin out more. And this middle lap coming up, they're on the 3rd lap now, it's going to thin out. And, of course, the gaps, they're getting bigger and bigger. Look at that. Some 20 athletes within a few seconds of the front, and then the gaps get bigger and bigger.
Another athlete we haven't mentioned just yet as we watch the best of the rest. And remember, these guys are world-class distance runners, making their way up onto the start of the next lap. Tume going through shot there. He was the national cross-country champion for Ethiopia. Mekinen, 4th in the African cross-country. Rotich, he's the man who set that 27:22 time.
Shadrach Kipchirchir
10K,
just gone through there. Rob, he set a US, won a very fast 15-kilometre race recently in the States, and he's the US cross-country champion, but he's nowhere near the front with the speed this is going at. The US cross-country champion, humbled over their first, 14 minutes. They've only been running 14 minutes, and he's way, way off the pace.
eKabRWorld is right there on the shoulder of Kiplimo. Cheptegei is in 4th. We've mentioned Kifley, the Eritrean, the tall figure currently in 3rd with that always distinctive pale blue vest that Zerzené Tadesse made so famous, not just in 07 when he beat Bekele for the World Cross, but all those World Half titles. Another athlete we haven't mentioned too much of is there in the background, Bahanu Bailu, off the podium, but in the top 10 for the 5,000 metres, the Bahraini, 2 years ago in Rio. 27th, there he is, just at the bottom of your shot. 27th in the World Cross 2 years ago. And Tim, you will have particularly amusing memories because Bailu is famous for that rather bizarre finish to the Diamond League race last year, where he and the tall figure, I've temporarily forgotten his name.
Kajelcha.
Yes, Kajelcha were pulling each other's shorts, and Bailu came round him and won the race. So he's a bit of a legendary figure, Bailu, and he's not afraid to get his elbows out.
Well, he's also pretty tasty as well. He's run a 59-minute half marathon. He was 4th in the World Half Marathon Championships last year. He's back in about 8th place at the moment, just trying to go with this leading quartet, who are beginning to pull away. And eKabRWorld in 2nd place is taking everything that the Ugandans are throwing at him at the moment, but this has to be testing everybody in this lead group because this is vicious. And Kiplimo here looks so relaxed. Little glance over his shoulder there. He looks like he's enjoying this.
Well, as we saw a little bit of history from Helena Beery in the senior women's race, first female athlete to win an indoor and outdoor track title and a World Cross Country title, no Ugandan male has ever won this title. The brilliant Moses Kipsero took a silver back in 2009 and followed it up with a bronze in 2010. But no Ugandan has won this crown. So that would be an incredible accolade. And Cheptegei thought he was going to achieve that great achievement last year when he was 11 or 12 seconds up on eKabRWorld and then completely disintegrated in the last 600 metres in the Kololo Independence Grounds. He finished in 30th, which ended up helping the Ugandans to the bronze. He's a much better athlete now, but no Ugandan has won this title, Tim. That's history right there. So there's a huge prize awaiting the two men flying the flag for Uganda, just as there is for eKabRWorld to tie Lopez on 3 titles.
Barega goes through the muddy section. That lad who won that incredible 5,000 metres at the Brussels Diamond League at the end of last summer to become the 4th fastest man in history. Barega is back, I think, in about 7th place. But how will he cope with these next 2 laps? This is lap 3, remember. They're coming towards the end of it, the leaders at least. I suspect the tail stretched out behind them goes around most of the lap already. How will they cope this time with the upslope on the Musgard Museum? The pace, the speed, they accelerated up the slope on the last lap. The 2nd lap of the 5 they've got to run was breathtaking. It really was. Now they negotiate this really awkward turn, which I have down as so difficult because the camber there, the ground really does drop away to the right. Now they hit it, Rob. How will they go up this? Lean into it, drive hard with the arms, get those knees up, see how the others cope with it. Kifle looks good.
He does. He's just sort of quietly going about his business, the Eritrean. There's Cheptegei, the double Commonwealth champion. I don't think he's going to make the same mistake he did on home turf 2 years ago. Ronex Kipruto on the left had temporarily rejoined that leading 4 to make them a quintet, but he has now dropped back as Barega, the great 5,000 metre runner, moves past him. So we've got Eritrea leading, Kenya 2nd, the defending champion, the 2 Ugandans in 3rd and 4th, Barega's in 5th, followed by Ronex Kipruto. Brilliant, brilliant teenager. Those two kind of swapping 4th and 5th, but they do need to try and close the gap on the leading 4.
Just as his agent predicted, eKabRWorld here is running superbly, isn't he? When you think he was only 5th in the Kenyan Championships, I think a few people saw that result and thought, is he vulnerable? Is there something wrong with him? Has he had his day in the sun? It's very easy to forget that Geoffrey eKabRWorld, with all that he's achieved, is only 26 and should still be improving, really. But he's looking good now.
6:13, Tim. We've gone 6:29, 6:18, 6:13, and that is why classy athletes like Beliku have been blown out the back. Excellent run by the Burundi athlete there to be in the mix, the Yegos.
In fact, the computer's saying 6:12, so it's insanely quick.
There's not much look of stress in the body language of Jacob Kiplimo, is there, Tim, on the right-hand side? There's not much tension in the shoulders, has a little look over his shoulder to see Kifle. This is a good run from the teenager so far.
No, exactly right. Kiplimo to the right of picture there for Uganda. I get the impression they almost had a breather coming up that slope there. I think it's one of the gentler upslopes, and they were all looking at each other, probably moving quicker than anybody else in the field already. You can see the athletes behind them. They went through in 18:59, so call it 19 minutes. You can see the gaps of half a minute and more back to those in the sort of 25 to 30 zone in positions at the moment after 3 laps.
Still Kiplimo leading, with eKabirWorld on his right-hand side and Kifley sandwiched between them, and these gaps are going to get a little bit bigger.
That was Barega rather awkwardly isolated there. He's trying to close up on that leading quartet, but it's going to be tough for him, or quintet I should say. He's back in 6th place. Here he is. Here's Barega skipping over the ground. He's moving well, but is he closing? It's going to be a very, very tough chase for him. And, of course, one of the problems when you're isolated like that is Barega, left of picture, you can see. If he does catch them, it means that he's run 30 yards faster than them over the previous few minutes. And he won't get a chance to have a breather when he gets up to them. You know, they'll be moving fast as well. So sometimes when somebody joins a group from behind like that, it's a good time to put in an acceleration, because they think, oh, no, I've just got up and contact with you guys, and you're going again.
Kipruto is just about on side with the leading 4, but he's always been the one having to play catch-up.
But does that make him a target for Barega now?
The longer this race goes on, Tim, even though Cheptegei is a much better, much more mature athlete than he was 2 years ago, even though Kiplimo's in great form, the longer this race goes on, the more you start to think that the master of peaking at the right time might have got it correct once again. eKabirWorld, he hasn't done anything silly. He's covered all the moves. He looks good, doesn't he?
He does look good, but, you know, I suspect the 2 Ugandans think he's vulnerable because he's been soundly beaten but in the Kenyan Championships, and therefore they've got to stick to their task. They mustn't start letting their confidence waver. If I was in their shoes, I'd keep pummeling away. I'd keep hitting him with these blows, lap after lap, hill after hill, keep working hard and see if he is vulnerable. Look at the forward brow of eKabirWorld in the middle there. I think he's working pretty hard to stick with this. He may yet be the champion, but he's certainly working. They all are. Kifley, well, he's kind of the dark horse, isn't he? He's just tucked in there behind. He looked really good on that last upslope up the museum roof. He was several metres quicker than everybody else. He just eased up past them and took the lead momentarily. So he might yet feed off this.
Hasn't run inside 60 minutes yet for the half, but he was good enough value for a top 3 finish in Valencia. You were there last year. Just a very interesting addition to what we assumed would unfold, a duel between the Kenyans and the Ugandans. But he's right there, Kifley, and he's not going away.
And I think it was in Valencia last year that we saw the full power of eKabirWorld's ability on the roads. You know, he ran that World Half Marathon title, his 3rd title when he won it. He ran his last 5 kilometres in 13:01, or rather the 5K between 15K and 20K. And it was astonishingly quick for a road 5,000 metres at the end of a half marathon. And yes, there was a bit of a following wind, but it was superhuman, almost literally.
That's incredible. 13:01. One of the Swedish athletes going well, certainly inside the top 15 or 20. And that's Umeis Aruch. He's turning 20 today.
Well, he was in 10th place earlier on, Umeis Aruch, but he's suffering a little bit maybe for that rash running, possibly rash running in the early stages. Gaps developing, Rob. Here's that hill for the 4th time. So the laps have been 6:29, 6:18, 6:12. What will this 4th circuit be?
Oh, what an acceleration here by Cheptegei and Kiplimo. The teenager's really going for this, Tim, and he's asking some awkward questions of Jeffrey Kipsang eKabirWorld, who so far is coming up with the answers, but he's really testing everybody. the arrogance or confidence of youth. He's unbeaten by nearly a year. That was an amazing acceleration up that hill.
Well, let's see how eKabirWorld responds in this next couple of minutes. Will he just ease gradually back up to the Ugandan, in which case that might have been a spectacular but rather extravagant move by Kiplimo. Very, very hard to tell at the moment. He's still a junior, beaten Cheptegei twice this year, hasn't lost since last July, the Ugandan cross-country champion. But as you pointed out rightly a little while ago, this would be a unique gold were he to defeat eKabirWorld over this final circuit. 25.07 after 4 laps. And that's at the last circuit. 6.08 by Kiplimo. Boy, oh boy, 6.29, 6.18, 6.12, 6.08.
So it's Uganda 1 and 3, eKabirWorld 2. He's still there. And now we see a few signs. Kifle, as I say that, increases his cadence a little bit. He still looks as though he's got a little bit of running in his legs, the tall figure from Eritrea. But what a declaration of intent that was from Jacob Kiplimo, bidding to become the youngest winner of the senior men's title. Still eligible, Tim, to compete in the junior race, but decided to go for the big one.
I know. Unbelievable.
That's the Swede, Robel Fisa. He's just set a new PB recently, 61.18. He came over from Eritrea and has now made Sweden his home. So he's progressing very well at this stage, inside the top 20, and he's now the leading European ahead of Umais Eruch, the birthday boy from Spain.
2 Ayekos from Uganda bracketing Belihu. These men have had to give ground to some fabulously fast running. Belu, former Ethiopian, running for Bahrain, goes through. And still these 3 locked together. You could throw a blanket over them. They're really, really tightly bunched. And knowing it's the final circuit, once again, Rob, every twist and turn, every little acceleration has to be thought about that much more carefully. This is where it starts becoming a battle of minds as much as bodies.
And I think Cheptegei has decided it's his turn to try and take this on. The Kenyan supporters are waving the famous flag, and eKabirWorld's hanging on. Kiplimo's had a go up that steep hill, but now it's Cheptegei's turn, the double Commonwealth champion over 5 and 10,000 metres. And many people, Tim, seem to feel that Cheptegei might be the man to take Mo Farah's mantle. That was before Mo Farah gave hint that he might compete over the 10 in Doha at the end of September. Cheptegei's really going for this, and eKabirWorld's being forced to hang on a little bit.
Well, Cheptegei, back in middle of October, or November rather, ran a world best, effectively a world record for 15 kilometres, a 41.05. He's got enormous strength. We know he's wintered really well, and now he's beginning to stretch away. And look at that gap, Rob. 1, 2, 3, single file, and eKabirWorld, for the very first time, looking just a little bit vulnerable on that upslope. What, 28 minutes on the clock, and are we seeing a new champion about to be crowned?
This is great running from Cheptegei. Remember, twice so far. As they come round, they're going to lap 1 or 2 more athletes. Don't worry about that. Cheptegei has lost to Kiplimo twice already this winter, but he is a big stage performer, and Jeffrey Kipsang eKabirWorld has been detached from the leading 2. You can't rule him out. He's won 5 global titles in the last 5 seasons. He could always come back, but that is a gap that tells us he is very, very uncomfortable in 3rd place.
Well, Cheptegei's got it right this time, Rob. He's out in front. Remember, he had an 11-second lead 2 years ago in front of the home crowd in Kampala, going into the final lap, but he blew. He hit the red section. He hit the wall, so to speak, in marathon running terms, and drastically dropped back to 30th place. But this time he's judged it absolutely to perfection. And what a challenging winter he's had. Back in December, he had a really bad car accident, did Joshua Cheptegei, the Ugandan. He's only 22 years old. He's coped with that. He's absorbed it into his training, and he's running fantastically well. And eKabirWorld losing ground dramatically.
Well, I think we're almost certain to say there will be a new champion. eKabirWorld has made a great effort to defend his title, but the 2 Ugandans were the ones who, on paper, could pose a problem for the mercurial Geoffrey Kipsang-Kamworor. Now the question comes, Tim, one of these two men is going to become the first man from their country to take this title. But which one? Will it be Cheptegei, who was so close to winning in Kampala 2 years ago and blew up? Will it be Kiplimo, who would become the youngest senior champion in history? It's an amazing story. Who wants this more, and how significant will this last climb be? Here they go.
For the final time, Kamworor in third place, comfortably in third place. He's heading for the rostrum, but the Ugandans are going to take a 1-2. Will they battle it out? Will they cross the line, almost holding hands? Look at this, driving into the hill once again. And Joshua Cheptegei in the lead there, right of picture. Spent all of last year out with a knee injury. Very, very frustrated for summer 2018 after a fabulous 2017 summer. Well, those knees are better, and they're pumping hard up this hill, Rob. And surely now he's got a gap on Kiplimo, his compatriot, and a winning gap.
This is looking good for Joshua Cheptegei. What a journey it's been for him. He learned such a hard lesson in Kampala. His adrenaline got the better of him in front of a massive amount of noise. With an 11-second lead over Geoffrey Kamworor, his race imploded, and so with it, 2 years ago, his dreams of becoming the first senior champion for Uganda. Kiplimo is going to get the silver. He's an incredible talent at the age of 18, but this is going to be a glorious run into the finish for Joshua Cheptegei. He looks over his shoulder, and now the celebrations begin. What a contrast to 2 years ago. Recovering from injury, recovering from a car crash, to come here and conquer one of the greats of all time. Joshua Cheptegei is the world cross-country champion, the first Ugandan ever to take that title. Jacob Kiplimo takes the silver, an outstanding performance for an 18-year-old. And this time, after golds in Guyang, after gold in Kampala, it's bronze for Geoffrey Kipsang-Kamworor, and a wonderful fourth-place finish for Aaron Kiplay. The Eritrean should be rightly proud of that performance. Well, it took an amazing run from two hugely talented men to deny Kamworor the golden hat-trick, but he's done it. And these two men will be on the front pages of all the newspapers in Kampala tomorrow. It's double delight for the Ugandans, gold and silver.
Well, a lot of people will be saying, my goodness, Geoffrey Kamworor is mortal after all. He can be beaten. That sheen of invincibility has at last cracked. And the Ugandans celebrating in style. And I'll tell you what, the packing there from the Ugandans, Rob. 4 of them across the line already. Very, very impressive. They will be amongst the medals. Will they have taken gold medals even?
I think they might well have done, Tim, because they had the two Ayekos. Thomas was 7th, Joel was 10th, 4 in the top 10. That would be an incredible story if they took the team title as well.
You're
Gold
right.
and silver to Uganda. What a performance.
They have taken it. I'm sure they'd have preferred it to have been last 2 years ago in front of the home crowd, but this is quite some run in a course that could hardly be more different to the conditions and the nature of the course in Kampala 2 years back. Kaya of Turkey goes through. Kaya, former Kenyan. Eritrea packing well. Wow.
Good run from Robinson there, Tim. Brett Robinson, who won the Australian trials. He was 28th in 2015. And he's come home in 30th place this time.
And Wasim Umaizarouche of Spain finishing in 20th place, the second European home. Robel Fsiha was the best, the Swede, in 16th place.
Rayner of Australia trying to out-sprint Tobin of Ireland, Millington of Great Britain, and Bando of Japan. Some very, very tired men here. That was brutal. But what unadulterated joy for the Ugandans. I'm sure the president of the IAAF will richly congratulate the Ugandans. That was a sensational 1-2.
And some way of celebrating a very, very difficult year and setting herself on a fine course for this coming summer and, of course, Tokyo Olympics next year. Joshua Cheptegei, what odds for him in the 10,000 metres in the Japanese capital in, what, 18 months' time?
Well, before that, what about the 10,000 this autumn? I guess you can't really answer the question I'm going to ask you until you see how Mo Farah goes in London. But would you see Cheptegei, if Farah comes back? He's going to have to go some to beat Cheptegei, isn't he?
It's a tough one. Cheptegei is just 22 years old. Kiplimo taking second place there, 18 years old. Mo Farah, Mo's 35, I think, now. He's almost old enough to beat Kiplimo's dad. Will he come back from road racing and line up against lads this young in the 10,000 metres in Doha?
It's a tall order, isn't it? Especially when you look at the quality that Cheptegei and Kiplimo have. Well, it was a wonderful, wonderful effort from Geoffrey Kipsang eKabRWorld to try and successfully defend his title. It was bronze this time, but he deserves great credit. He played his part in a wonderful race.
And then we're back in the finish area with you, Stefan. And,
a great effort. He showed some real character today, Timbo. eKabRWorld.
Oh, didn't he just? He battled till the end. And, you know, when did he actually relinquish the lead and have to give in? About 3 minutes from the finish, 3 or 4 minutes from the finish. You know, he put in an astonishing effort for 26, 27 minutes before giving way to the Ugandan youth that he was up against. And that double whammy of Cheptegei and Kiplimo was quite astonishing. And the celebrations will go on for years, I should think, back in Kampala.
Well, it was bronze this time for the two-time champion. Let's hear his thoughts. He spoke to Rachel after the race.
Geoffrey eKabRWorld, third place in the Senior Men's World Cross Country Championships. That looked very tough out there. You're in contention all the way, but just it came a little bit undone in the final lap. Just talk us through that race, Geoffrey.
Actually, the race was good from the beginning, and then the course is really tough, especially the downhills and the hill. So it was really tough. Yeah.
Just explain how tough. What was the hardest part of it out there for you?
The hardest part was the hill walk. The roof was really tough. Yeah.
But in terms of a course and how different it has been to, say, 2 years ago in Kampala, just describe the two different courses there.
Actually, the course was stiff. It was downhill, so it was a bit so stiff. Yeah.
And a word on your bronze medal here today. You couldn't quite retain your title, but are you happy to grab a medal anyway?
Yeah, I'm happy to take the bronze because that's what I got and I gave it all. So it's what I got.
Congratulations. Thank you.